I moved into the house because it was cheap and because I didn't have options. That's the honest reason. I just picked up a night job doing inventory counts for a regional supplier. The pay was steady, the hours were bad, and my savings were thin enough that one missed paycheck would have put me in trouble. The listing said fixer-upper. What it meant was no one else wanted it. The house sits on a quiet street outside town. Single story, faded siding, small backyard with a dead patch of grass where nothing grows. It looks normal enough from the outside, which mattered to me more than it should have. I noticed the basement door during the walkthrough. It's in the hallway between the kitchen and the bedroom. Standard size, old wood, no handle on the outside, just a smooth painted surface. The frame around it is rough, uneven, like someone poured cement by hand and didn't bother smoothing it out. I asked the landlord about it. Old moisture issue, he said. Basement flooded years ago, sealed it off. No reason to go down there. Is it structurally sound? I asked. He nodded too quickly. That's why it's sealed. I didn't push. I needed the place. Rent was due in 3 days. I signed the lease and told myself I didn't care what was behind a door I'd never open. The first few nights were eventful. Quiet house, no neighbors close enough to hear, no weird noises beyond the normal creaks and pops you get in older buildings. I work nights, so I sleep during the day and exist in a half-lit world of drawn curtains and coffee. That routine matters because when it breaks, I notice. The first sound came late, around 2:30 a.m. I was in the living room watching something mindless, volume low. I thought it was the house settling at first, a dull click somewhere down the hall, not loud enough to register as a problem. Then it happened again. Closer. Metal on metal. I muted the TV and listened. The sound came from the hallway, from the basement door. I stood there for a full minute, telling myself it was nothing. Old hinges contracting with temperature changes, pipes shifting, any explanation that didn't involve something happening on the other side of a sealed door. Then I heard it clearly, a hinge clicking, not randomly, sequentially. Top hinge, pause, middle hinge, pause, bottom hinge. Exactly the sound a door makes when someone opens it slowly and carefully. I walked into the hallway. The door looked exactly the same. Cement intact, no cracks, no gaps. The painted surface unbroken, like it had been poured into place and left to harden decades ago. I put my hand on it. Cold, solid, no vibration, no movement. I laughed quietly, more at myself than anything else, and went back to the couch. That's when I realized something else. The clicking had stopped because the door had finished opening. At least, that's what the sound suggested, but there was no space for it to open into. The next night, it happened again. Same time, same sequence. This time, I was in bed, lights off, house quiet. I didn't move. I counted the clicks in my head, heart pounding harder with each one. When it finished, I waited for something else. Footsteps, breathing, any follow-up noise that would confirm I wasn't losing my mind. Nothing came. I slept badly after that. The third night, I checked the door before going to bed. I examined the cement closely, ran my fingers along the edges. No seams, no hairline fractures, no signs of tampering. Whoever sealed it had done it thoroughly. That should have been reassuring. It wasn't. At 2:14 a.m., the hinges clicked again. This time, I was standing right in front of the door. The sound didn't come from the hinges themselves. It came from inside the wall. I felt it then. Not movement, not vibration, pressure. Like something on the other side was leaning against the door, testing it. Not hard enough to break through, just enough to make the hardware respond the way it was designed to open. Like it was being unlatched from the other side. Top hinge. Pause. Middle hinge. My throat tightened. Before the bottom hinge could click, something else happened. The door answered. A faint creak, not from the hinges, from the wood itself reacting to pressure. Like someone had pressed their forehead against it and leaned in slowly. I heard nails scrape. Not dragging, not clawing, testing. The bottom hinge clicked. Silence followed, heavy, expectant. Then the handleless door shifted inward by a fraction of a centimeter. It shouldn't have been possible. The cement frame didn't crack. The paint didn't break. The door simply existed in a slightly different place than it had a moment before. I felt cold rush over my skin, like the house had opened a window somewhere deep inside itself. Something exhaled on the other side of the door. Closer now. I bolted upright in bed and shouted without thinking, "Stop!" The breath paused. For a second, I thought it worked. Then something on the other side mimicked my voice. Not perfectly. The tone was right, but the timing was off, like it hadn't practiced enough yet. "Stop," it said back. I didn't stay in bed after that. I grabbed my keys, shoes still untied, and left the house at 2:17 a.m. I sat in my car until dawn, watching the front door like I expected it to open on its own. It didn't. Like it was being unlatched from the other side. Top hinge. Pause. Middle hinge. My throat tightened. Before the bottom hinge could click, something else happened. The door answered. A faint creak, not from the hinges, from the wood itself reacting to pressure. Like someone had pressed their forehead against it and leaned in slowly. I heard nails scrape. Not dragging, not clawing, testing. The bottom hinge clicked. Silence followed, heavy, expectant. Then the handleless door shifted inward by a fraction of a centimeter. It shouldn't have been possible. The cement frame didn't crack. The paint didn't break. The door simply existed in a slightly different place than it had a moment before. I felt cold rush over my skin, like the house had opened a window somewhere deep inside itself. Something exhaled on the other side of the door. Closer now. I bolted upright in bed and shouted without thinking, "Stop!" The breath paused. For a second, I thought it worked. Then something on the other side mimicked my voice. Not perfectly. The tone was right, but the timing was off, like it hadn't practiced enough yet. "Stop," it said back. I didn't stay in bed after that. I grabbed my keys, shoes still untied, and left the house at 2:17 a.m. I sat in my car until dawn, watching the front door like I expected it to open on its own. It didn't. When I went back inside in the morning, the basement door looked untouched, but the cement around the frame had new marks, finger-length grooves pressed into it from the inside, perfectly spaced, as if something had been counting how much room it needed. I didn't go to work that night. I texted my supervisor something vague about food poisoning and shut my phone off before he could ask questions. I spent the evening sitting in the living room with every light on, a chair pulled back from the hallway like distance alone might help. I kept glancing at the basement door. It didn't move. That almost felt intentional. Around midnight, the house started doing things it hadn't done before. Not loud things, small corrections. The kind of sounds you only notice when you're already listening too hard. A floorboard creaked near the hallway even though I wasn't there. The air pressure shifted like a door opening somewhere deep underground. The smell changed. Damp earth layered under old concrete. At 2:10 a.m., the lights flickered once. At 2:12, the hallway felt colder. At 2:14, the first hinge clicked. I was standing this time, halfway down the hall, close enough that I could see the basement door clearly. My heart hammered so hard it blurred my vision. The sound didn't come from the hinges anymore. It came from behind the wall. Top, pause, middle. The cement frame groaned softly, not cracking, just flexing the way old structures do when weight shifts in the wrong place. I could feel the sound in my teeth. "Please don't," I said before I could stop myself. The house went completely still. Then something pressed against the door. Not leaning, not shoving, resting, like a body finding the exact place where effort wasn't required. I realized then why the door didn't have a handle on my side. It was never meant to be opened from here. The bottom hinge clicked. The door didn't swing open. It slid. Not outward, not inward. Sideways. Just enough to create a hairline shadow along the cement frame. A darkness that wasn't empty space, but depth. A space that swallowed the hallway light instead of reflecting it. I staggered back, bile rising in my throat. From inside that thin seam, a voice spoke. Not loud, not strained, calm. "You moved in," it said. "That made it your turn." My knees almost buckled. "What are you?" There was a pause, long enough that I thought it wasn't going to answer. Then the pressure shifted again, closer to the opening. "I'm what stayed when the rest was sealed," it said. The shadow widened by a few millimeters. I smelled breath, warm, human, close. "I can't fit yet," it continued, almost conversational. "You help every night." "Help how?" I whispered. The voice sounded pleased. "You listen." The door slid back into place. The seam vanished. The hallway returned to normal. The basement door looked exactly the way it always had, except the warmth was gone. It felt cold now, empty, like something had stepped away from it at last. I stood there shaking until morning. At sunrise, I noticed something new. The grooves in the cement weren't finger marks anymore. They were smoothed out, rounded, like the space behind the door had pressed itself forward and learned the shape it needed. That afternoon, my landlord finally returned my calls. He was quiet when I told him about the sounds, the warmth, the marks. He didn't deny anything. They sealed it because it learned doors, he said flatly. My stomach dropped. Learned? It used to come up the stairs, he said flatly. Not fast, not all at once, just enough to be noticed. Why didn't anyone remove it? I asked. He sighed. Because it doesn't leave, it waits, and it needs someone living above it. I swallowed. Then why rent the house? There was a pause on the line. You're the first tenant who's stayed long enough for it to start opening again, he said. That night, I moved my mattress into the living room. It didn't matter. At 2:14 a.m., the hinges clicked anyway. This time, all three at once. And from the other side of the sealed door, something laughed softly, like it finally understood how close it was. I didn't stay to hear the hinges finish. When all three clicked at once, something in my chest gave way. Not panic, clarity, the kind that arrives too late but still demands to be obeyed. I grabbed my keys and ran. I didn't bother with shoes. I didn't look back. I tore the front door open and stumbled onto the lawn, lungs burning, night air cutting cold against my skin. I kept going until the house was a dark shape behind me and the streetlights felt real again. I spent the night in my car, parked under a gas station canopy with the engine off, watching the time tick past 2:14 a.m. Nothing happened. No sounds, no movement, no laughter carried on the wind. By morning, exhaustion made me reckless. I went back. I told myself I needed proof, photos, something to show someone who could do something about it. Police, inspectors, anyone who wouldn't dismiss me as another tenant spooked by an old house. The front door was unlocked. I know I locked it. I checked twice when I left. Inside, the house smelled wrong. Not damp, not moldy. Occupied. The hallway light was on. The basement door was open, not broken, not shattered. Open. The cement frame was still there, intact, but the door itself stood flush against the wall, slid neatly aside like it had always been designed to do that. Beyond it was darkness so complete it felt textured, like a surface instead of empty space. No stairs, no basement, just depth. I stood frozen at the threshold, heart pounding, listening. Something shifted inside the dark, not stepping forward, adjusting, learning the height of the doorway. You left, the voice said gently. That slowed things down. I couldn't see it, but I felt it move closer. The air grew warmer with each second, thick and stale like breath held too long. You live above me, it continued. That's how this works. I'm moving out, I said. My voice shook. I won't be back. There was a sound that might have been amusement. They all say that. something reached the edge of the doorway. I saw it then, not clearly, but enough. A shape that had learned verticality, learned where shoulders go, learned how much space a human takes up. But it hadn't learned faces yet. That's when I understood the laughter. It wasn't happy, it was patient. I don't need to chase, I just need you to sleep somewhere with a door. The hallway creaked behind me. I ran again. I didn't take anything with me this time. Not clothes, not documents, not proof. I drove until the sun came up and kept going until I crossed county lines. I slept in the car, then in motels, then on a friend's couch. Weeks passed. Nothing happened. I started to believe I'd escaped. Then, last night, as I was drifting off in a new place with new walls and a new locked door, I heard a familiar sound. Metal on metal. Not hinges. A latch. Chesting. Careful. Deliberate. And from somewhere beneath the floor, deep enough that it felt like it came from the building itself, I heard something breathe and settle into place, waiting, because now it knows how doors work, and it knows I'm still above it.